Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Aging Network. My name is Kathy Tutt, and today we're going to be talking about mental health and resiliency in older adults, so please stay tuned. Hi, and welcome back. My name is Kathy Tutt. I'm the Family Consumer Science Educator for Ohio State University Extension in Clark County. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health and resilience in older adults. My guests today are Dr. Roseanne Scammahorn and Lorrissa Dunfee. I'm going to give them each a chance to introduce themselves. So if Roseanne, you could go first, please.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. My name is Roseanne Scammahorn. I'm the Family and Consumer Science Educator for Darke County. I've been with the Extension for 2 years. And my specialty areas are healthy finances and healthy relationships.
Okay, and Lorrissa.
Thanks, Kathy. My name is Lorrissa Dunfee, and I'm the Family and Consumer Science Educator in Belmont County. I've been with Extension for almost 5 years, and I specialize in healthy relationships and mental health and physical health. And so I'm excited to be here to share this topic with you all today.
Thank you both so much. So as we are going, like I said, the title today is Mental Health and Resilience in Older Adults. And, when I think about mental health, how it really affects how we feel, how we think, how we act, how we cope. It also really determines how we handle stress and also how we make choices. Mental health is important at every single stage in life and including as we age. So if you don't care, Lorrissa, could you share with us a little bit about the mental health awareness and how important it is for older adults?
Between 2016 and 2040, individuals 85 years old and over are projected to increase by 129%. So our population is aging as a whole. And 2/3 of the older adults with mental health problems do not receive the treatment that they need. So that's a real concern.
So I guess we have two things here, right? We have our huge growing older adult population with that swelling of that age group. And then the other thing that I heard you say is that 2/3 of the older adults don't receive the treatment that they need. That's really a concern. So can you tell me a little bit, if these mental health issues go untreated or substance abuse issues go untreated, what could be some of the results of that?
Sure. It's definitely linked to several different things. Poor health outcomes overall, and increased utilization of our healthcare system, increased disability and impairment, just an overall compromised quality of life for these individuals, and increased caregiver stress, higher rate of suicide, and then increased mortality. So we know 6 to 8 million U.S. adults aged 65 and older have a mental health issue or a substance abuse disorder. And this number is expected to nearly double by 2030.
So that's pretty big statement right there. All the things that it does impact, when I go back to my opening statement where it talks about how it affects how we think, how we live, how we cope. You can see all of those come in here. And, the higher healthcare utilization, I think to me is one of those things that stands out when we think about the cost of our healthcare in the United States and the older adults using Medicaid and Medicare, and what impact that'll also have on our economy later on down the line. So you talked about that. So what are some of the most prevalent mental health issues that we see among our older adults?
So the three most common are depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorders. But these are not a normal part of aging. They don't have to be. And if left untreated, they can lead to chronic fatigue, severe illness, and even suicidal ideation.
So depression, anxiety, bipolar are the three biggest ones. So Roseanne, could you share a little bit more about each of those for me?
Yes. Depression is a type of mood disorder that ranks as the most pervasive mental health concern among older adults, and it affects about 6.5 million Americans aged 65 or older. If it's left untreated, it can lead to physical and mental impairments and impede their ability for social functioning. So common symptoms with depression are ongoing sadness or a depressed mood for at least 2 consecutive weeks, along with the symptoms of like general slowing down, distancing from activities that they previously enjoyed, or even signs like physical pain or discomfort. So for some older adults with depression, though, sadness is not their main symptom. Some older people who are depressed, they may appear to feel just tired all of the time, or may find that they have trouble sleeping. And sometimes they even seem just grumpy or irritable. So depression can typically be successfully treated in older adults as long as they seek out appropriate medical care.
So are there some risk factors that are associated with depression?
Yeah, there's several risk factors associated with depression. And here's just a few that I'd like to share. So if they have malnutrition going on and have a poor diet, that might be a risk factor to increase their susceptibility to depression. If they have debilitating health problems that they're currently facing, if they have a presence of another mental disorder, if they're in the process of grief, that's something that we want to keep an eye on our loved ones. If they have recently become divorced or widowed, if there's some kind of family discord going on, some strife between family members, or if there's like a major negative life change that happens. There's also things just as simple as fear of a prolonged illness, or even a self-perceived impression that they are in poor health, even though they may be perfectly healthy. Other things you want to look out for that might increase their risk factor is physical disabilities, and then their medications. There's a lot of medications out there that might bring on depressive type symptoms. And so you want to talk to your medical care provider to make sure that it's not a medical medication interaction. The other thing that you want to talk about, and we'll get a little bit more into depth of this, is social isolation and loneliness. That can lead to things of like substance abuse and even attempts of suicide.
Thank you very much for that. So the other one that we mentioned earlier was anxiety, a very common one among older adults.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about anxiety and how that affects us?
Yeah, I would be happy to share some more information on anxiety. So like depression, anxiety is a very common mood disorder among aging adults. So in fact, typically these two mental illnesses appear in tandem. So statistics from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention show that nearly half of older adults with anxiety also experience a form of depression. So between 3% and 14% of older adults actually meet the criteria for a diagnosable anxiety disorder. Additionally, a study from the Internal Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that more than 27% of older adults under the care of an aging service provider have symptoms of anxiety that may not amount to a diagnosis or a disorder, but it significantly impacts their daily functioning and their quality of life. There are several types of anxiety disorders, and just a few of them are phobias, panic disorders, social anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, obsessive compulsive disorders, and generalized anxiety disorder.
You mentioned quite a few different anxiety disorders. Which one of the disorders is the most common, or are there a few that are more common in older adults?
The most common is generalized anxiety disorder amongst older adults. It is frequently associated with something like a traumatic event, such as maybe a fall with an injury or an acute illness that maybe resulted in a hospital stay or a rehabilitation center type stay. So the effects of generalized anxiety include, like, you have to have a persistent worry or fear, which will get progressively worse with time if it's left untreated. So individuals display just an excessive amount of anxiety or worry, and they will display these most days of the week for at least 6 consecutive months. So these symptoms eventually will start to interfere with their ability to socialize. If they are still maybe volunteering or working maybe a job in their retirement years, you'll start to notice that it will they'll have some issues with their job performance. And then the big thing that you'll see is interference with their day-to-day activities. So again, they're not finding that they're able to complete those day-to-day activities and the things that they love because of the anxiety. Another good thing to look out for is with older adults, that are dealing with anxiety, they tend to become more withdrawn and reclusive due to the anxiety type of issues that they're having. But there are a variety of techniques, supports, and treatments that include possibly medication, psychotherapy, or a combination of both that are available to address the various types of anxiety disorders amongst older adults.
Thank you so much. And, I hear you talking and some of it so much sounds like it could be a physical illness, but it's truly a mental illness, but presenting itself in physical pain, which is something, even as our age group, if we were going to the doctor with our parents and we would need to discuss some things, that might be, a bug that we put in someone's ear. So I think I really appreciate you sharing that with us because, it makes you just take a step back and rethink what could be going on. So we have one more mental health disorder that you talked about that's very common, and that is bipolar. So could you share a little bit about that one with me, please?
The third most common mental health disorder is bipolar disorders, or also known as manic depressive illnesses. Bipolar disorders are often marked by unusual mood shifts and are frequently misdiagnosed in aging adults because of the symptoms presented are really typical with the aging process, especially if you have a predisposition to dementia or Alzheimer's. So for seniors, you will see signs like extreme agitation or irritability, but seniors seldom exhibit the classic signs of a manic episode. So when a bipolar disorder actually does appear in an older adult, the symptoms will be sudden and typically severe. It often cycles faster between depression and mania, and in some older adults, they report experiencing both types of episodes at the same time. It's worth noting that the effects of certain medications, again, and some types of illnesses show similar symptoms, so it can be really difficult to recognize and diagnose. With all these mental illnesses, if you start to notice these in yourself or a loved one, the best thing you can do is to start keeping a diary log and keep track of how do you wake up in the morning and how do you feel? How do you feel midday and how do you feel in the evening? You may not be able to recognize it, but when you give your journal to your primary care physician, they can look at it and more accurately assess if this is a mental health issue or a physical issue.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're raising some awareness of that and giving some names to some of those things that we might be seeing in our older adults. If I can go back to the very beginning when Lorrissa was talking, and she said something about 2/3 of our older adults don't get their needs addressed when it comes to mental health. So why is it, do you think, that the mental health issues don't get addressed with our aging adults?
Well, it can be difficult to pick up on a mental health issue among our seniors because of their unique age-related health and life challenges that they face. And, sometimes these symptoms can be very subtle or attributed to a variety of different health concerns or conditions, or just normal life changes. So older adults are less likely to notify a healthcare provider of their symptoms that they experience, especially if they are concerned that they might be related to a mental health problem. And this can be due to the stigma associated with mental illness. And so they, just don't share that information with their doctor, or they may not be able to explain the symptoms that they're experiencing. And of course, they don't want to seem crazy or potentially lose their independence.
So, and I think when we talk about that, we talked in our falls prevention, episode that we did, that they don't share that because they don't want people to realize that something might be going wrong. And again, like you said, they're afraid of losing their independence or afraid of having some type of stigma that might cause them to not be able to live alone anymore. And so I think it's really important that we let people know that it is okay to talk to your doctor about these things that you are feeling. Mental health and isolation and depression and anxiety, all of those things have come into play for a lot of people right now with the COVID and the things that have happened associated with the coronavirus. So when we think about that, how do you think, Lorrissa, that COVID has impacted mental health in our older adults?
Yeah, even pre-pandemic times, quote unquote, quote, normal times, seniors typically face risk factors such as that social isolation, financial challenges, illness, and then also grief and loss. And that, of course, is associated with higher rates of anxiety and depression. But overall, we know from research that older adults are resilient. And we have studies that were conducted here in the United States that have indicated that older adults were less likely to experience a negative mental health outcome over their younger adults. So take a look at this chart here from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And it found that participants aged 65 years and older reported anxiety disorders at a rate of 6.2%, and depressive disorders at a rate of 5.8%, and then trauma or stress-related disorders at a rate of 9.2%. While a group of participants between the ages of 18 and 24, they said that 49.1% of them reported anxiety disorder, 52.3% reported depressive disorder, and 46% reported trauma or stress-related disorder. So as you can see, our aging adults are coping better at a higher rate than what our younger population is doing. And there are some factors that put older adults at greater risk for the mental health issues. According to the CDC report, older adults who are members of that underrepresented minority groups, or if they have lower household income or serve a caregiver, are at a higher rate of increasing and experiencing negative mental health outcomes.
So has the increased socialization and loneliness brought on by the pandemic affected overall health of our older adults?
I believe there is a measurable relationship between social connections and our health. Individuals experiencing social isolation and loneliness can see their risk of early death increase by as much as 29%. The National Academy of Sciences reported that social isolation can lead to an increased likelihood of dementia by 50%, heart disease by 29%, and stroke by 32%, while loneliness can lead to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide.
So we have all these other things that are going on along with the pandemic. We're pretty comfortable right now using Zoom or using some other type of social media to connect with people. But we do also know that some of our individuals either don't have internet connectivity or they're just not really comfortable using technology. So do you have any suggestions for them on how they might connect with others?
Sure. I think just simply picking up the phone and making a call, reaching out daily to someone, maybe have several of your friends, just encourage them to have a phone tree or something, so that everyone's checking on each other. And it doesn't have to be a long drawn out call, just a well-checked call, or just to say, hey, how you doing today? What are you having for dinner? Whatever, or write a simple note or send a card. I know over the past year with COVID-19, I've sent more cards than I have in a long time. Just, I've received some cards and it really has brightened my day and made me feel less lonely and less in this by myself. So it is helpful. And then we have a couple companion lines that people may not be aware of. And one's called the Friendship Line. It's from the Institute on Aging, and the AARP Friendly Voices line. And both of those resources just provide a call to individuals and just check in, talk to them. They're not giving any kind of health information or anything. It's just basically someone to talk to. And so at the end, we'll share those numbers for both of those resources as well.
Do you have any tips that could help someone who's struggling with their mental health due to COVID-19 restrictions?
The Rochester Center for Behavioral Health recommends that these are great ways to overcome COVID restrictions. The first one is disconnect from technology and TV. So limit your time watching the news. The continuous updates on COVID-19 over and over again can cause you to become overwhelmed and make you feel anxious and possibly even depressed. So also watch how much you spend on social media. Sometimes social media provides inaccurate or misleading information, which can also compound your feelings of anxiety, tension, and stress. So keep those in check. If you find that those are causing you to feel more stress, then limit how much you spend using those type of entertainments. So watch your news and watch your social media. The second one is to create your own daily rituals. So be mindful about maintaining your daily activities, such as like household chores, what time you eat your meals, and then wake up and go to bed on a routine and a regular basis. Go for a walk outside and stay active and connect with nature if that's something that's possible for you. Also think of things like movies, puzzles, books, and crafts. Those are great ways to stay focused and be present in the moment versus becoming overwhelmed and feeling anxious about what might be. The third one is to just breathe. When you begin to feel anxious or isolated or overwhelmed, taking several deep breaths can increase your oxygen saturation in your blood, which then in turn boosts the oxygen in the brain to help calm anxiety and encourage mindfulness. I do 3 minutes of mindful breathing exercises, which is just inhaling deep and holding it and exhaling real slow. I do those every night before bed. It just helps to quiet the mind from the stressors and the anxieties of the day. And then the fourth one is be creative with your connections. There are many creative ways out there that you can connect with your friends and family. Lorrissa mentioned, just picking up the phone or sending a card. But you can also use the telephone with FaceTime, with Zoom, or simply do a window visit or socialize outside with a mask and maintaining your 6 feet of distance. Those are all great ways that you can interact with others. Most older adults report that they have become more tech savvy. So 70% are now using social media more than before, and 57% are using video chats as a way to stay connected with their friends and family during the pandemic. Twice a month, I have a video call with my uncle who lives in a nursing home. And currently, we're reading a book together. So we get together twice a month and we debate, did we like the book or didn't like the book?
Those are some great ideas. Thank you so much. And I know that traditionally treatment has been a little bit difficult in some areas of our state. And how has that impacted COVID-19? How has that impacted our access to treatment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really think that a positive of COVID-19 is that access to treatment has improved. We are able to have telehealth visits or virtual visits with mental health professionals, just as we do with our physical health doctors. And so I think this has been a great opportunity for us to be able to, if we are conscious about, seeking treatment, that it removes some of the barriers. And so most private insurances are covering virtual visits, and also Medicare is covering them.
Great. That's good news.
Yes.
So in the few minutes that we have left, how can we help someone that we think might be having some mental health concerns?
Building that rapport so that you develop that relationship of trust, and encourage them to stay connected, whatever means that they feel they're capable of and feel comfortable doing, but just encouraging them to definitely stay connected. Encourage them to participate in activities that bring them purpose and, healthy habits as far as eating healthy, sleeping well, getting some physical activity. And, when they feel comfortable, as things start to open up, making sure that they're connecting with others. I know our local Panera, every day you go in there at lunchtime, there's older adults that are playing some kind of card or dice game. And then also, giving them resources that they can utilize if they feel that they need to talk to a healthcare professional.
Thank you so much. And I know, there's sometimes they just need someone to listen to them too, and realizing that you can't fix everything, but also encouraging them to seek that outside professional help if it's needed. So you mentioned earlier about some resources that are available for those who might need some additional help. Could you share those with us too, please?
Sure. So on the screen, there's a list of several different resources. I teach mental health first aid classes, and that's just a class that's offered to recognize warning signs of some of the different disorders that we've spoke about today, and helping to connect people with resources and providing hope to them. We offer trauma-informed trainings, and then the National Crisis Hotline and Crisis Text Line numbers are there, as well as those friendship lines, companion lines that I spoke about through the National Institute of Aging and the AARP Friendly Voices line. And then, of course, just connecting with your local area on aging. They're a wealth of knowledge and have some great resources. And then as part of a grant with Ohio State in partnership with the Extension and College of Public Health, we created an Ohio Mental Health Resource Guide for all 88 counties. So that link is there as well if someone needs some additional resources.
Great. Thank you so much. And those are some great resources and give some people some things to go to. Well, that is the end of our time today. I want to thank you both, Lorrissa and Roseanne, for joining me and talking about this important topic. And again, our information will be on the screen. So if you need to contact us for further information, please feel free to do so or go to your local extension office. Thank you for joining us today.